and welcome back to our Ellipse Unsealed podcast. Today we have with us a very special guest, Candace Edelin. Hi, Candace.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, Candace.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Bobby.
How are you doing today?
I am thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we're thrilled to have you.
I'm thrilled the snow is melting off in my front yard. It's
Yeah,
melting off at a quick pace. I'm pretty excited by this.
you guys got a lot more than us. It's gone here.
We did. We ended up getting 20 inches of snow in the last storm, maybe 22, close to 2 foot in Littleton. Yeah, it was absurd.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Weather has been crazy. Where are you located, Candace?
I'm in Fort Collins.
Okay.
So 70 miles north of Bobby, roughly 70, 80.
Yep.
I grew up in Littleton.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I'm in the Midwest, and over here in Ohio, we've been having some fun tornado action. So you guys are getting the snow, and we're getting some tornadoes.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary, yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, me too. It's snow I can deal with.
Yeah.
Tornadoes?
Yeah, no thanks. But anyways, Candace, do you want to kind of start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Sure. I am a salesperson and marketing person. So I've run a marketing and sales consultancy for a long time and started using LinkedIn a few years ago to build my own pipeline and discovered some amazing results. And since then have been working with a lot of folks, especially in the channel, to help them use LinkedIn for driving sales. It's been a pretty remarkable, fun journey.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought that last piece up. I met you officially at a user group meeting almost a year ago now. It was in Fort Collins, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it was.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and then started following you pretty much after you signed up for the event. Because with the local events, when people sign up, I like to figure out who they are and how they fit into the system, and get to know them a little bit before they maybe show up to the event to make sure we're meeting their needs. And so, quickly, discovered that you do have a great presence on LinkedIn and use it really well. So we're excited to have you on to talk a little bit more about what you do on LinkedIn to not just create pipeline, which is great, but also conversation. And just we want to kind of touch on a lot of that. So, yeah, if you don't mind just giving us a brief idea of how you use LinkedIn as a tool so that our audience can start to do the same.
Sure. And yeah, I found out about that meeting because of LinkedIn too. So I wouldn't have shown up if it hadn't been for LinkedIn. And that's the thing is LinkedIn has become like this massive community. It used to be mostly a repository for resumes. And that's how a lot of people are still treating it. And then it became a place where you could promote your content and try to drive traffic to your content. And that worked for a while. But it's changed a lot in the last few years to be much more of an organic social network where people are actually engaging with people and having conversations like a big, huge conference that you don't have to travel for, where you can get into one-on-one conversations with anybody. And it's amazing. They have almost 1 billion members now. I would guess, I've heard estimates of 300 million in the US, but I don't think there's that many adults using LinkedIn in the US. So there's some there. But still, it's dominated by senior people and decision makers. It's the most profound place that you can go online or in person to reach a community of people that might be prospective buyers, employees, partners, investors. So it's a really profound community for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you made a good point there just on the idea that this, it is what you take it for. If you go to a big conference or if you're on LinkedIn, if you go to a big conference and all you do is sit in your hotel room and come out for a few educational sessions and go back to your hotel room, that's your choice, and that's the experience you're going to get. But the same thing with LinkedIn. If you pop in, maybe see a few things, like a few things, that's what you're going to get out of it. But when you start to engage, which is what we'll talk a little bit more as we go through this conversation, that's when the magic starts to happen. And you couldn't have said it better. This is a giant, million user conference that you can slice and dice in lots of different ways to get yourself, deeper and deeper into a network and into conversation there.
Actually, can we play that metaphor forward just a little bit? Because that's actually kind of working for one of the things that we're going to be talking about later. So we can kind of call back to it, is that if you're at that conference, and let's say you've bought a booth, and if you just stand at the booth with your brochures out, you're not going to get nearly as much out of that conference as you would if you speak. And if you go around and you network and you engage with people and you start conversations with people at the conference. So even if you're not sitting in your room, just sitting behind your booth waiting for people to come to you is equally bad.
Yeah.
Or there's those conference people, I don't see this really happening. It's more like on the streets of New York or Las Vegas where people are shoving their brochures at you. That happens virtually on LinkedIn too, and that doesn't help either. It's not a useful way. Now, if I'm standing in front of the billboard for comedy club looking at what shows are coming up and you come and you give me your playbill, I'll be interested in receiving it. But if I'm just rushing through Times Square on my way to a meeting, I don't appreciate it when you shove your flyer in my face. And that's the same on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah, you need to have that good balance of staying pertinent in people's feeds, but also not shoving it down their throat where they're like, oh, I want to unfollow this person because it's just bogging down my timeline and all of that stuff.
Yeah, spam is real.
Yeah, I love how, I was going to mention putting in what you get out. Even before this call, I was looking on my LinkedIn because I'd never met you, Candace, before. So I was like, oh, Candace, let me look her up really quick. And I was like, oh, Candace, I follow her. I see her on my LinkedIn feed all the time. So you definitely have that like nice presence of being like familiar to people in the community and things like that, which is great. And Bobby, I know you do as well. Obviously, I know you, but I'm sure other people say that.
I'll only communicate with Savannah on LinkedIn now.
Yeah. We message on LinkedIn.
I do that with a lot of people.
I do sometimes too. If somebody's not paying attention on Teams, I'll hit them up on LinkedIn too. It depends on you. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we get such great results. That works if you take a human approach and don't use a bot or pitch slap them, which we should talk about.
Yeah, that kind of leads us into our next conversation point. I know you mentioned it, LinkedIn being kind of becoming more organic rather than, like a sales pitch and things like that and being human. And that's another thing that I know like Bobby does so well is being personable in his posts and everything. And people are loving seeing that nowadays. And it reflects more with them. Do you have anything to kind of, say to that point?
Yeah, I mean, my whole like tagline is human to human. Being human on LinkedIn, not being a bot. I hate bots on LinkedIn. And not being a spammer or a pitch slapper, but treating people the way that you would want to be treated yourself. A lot of people confuse the idea of efficiency and effectiveness. And so they throw out messages on LinkedIn and kind of like take the approach that isn't working in email and apply it to LinkedIn. And that doesn't work on LinkedIn either. It just irritates people. So I think that we need to really think about LinkedIn as it has its own culture. And being human on LinkedIn means that you're getting in there and you're chatting with people, you're having dialogue in DMs, you're commenting and engaging. It's not like an advertising platform where you can just post your content or a link to your content like a free ad. And that's what, I mean, it used to work. It used to be that if we wrote a blog post, we would write up a little promotional bit about it, put it on Twitter, put it on LinkedIn, put it on Facebook, maybe stick it on Instagram. And that would drive traffic to our blog post. And that was the whole purpose of posting content. Then people got access to groups and they started doing that in groups and spamming groups. And it killed groups. So there's very little engagement in groups because it's just a place where people just spam content. So that methodology, while it used to work, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for a few years. What Bobby's doing works. Like you're engaging with people, you're having dialogue, you're having fun on it, and other people can engage with you and have conversation. That's what really works today on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people love, like you said, the engagement, even big brands, on TikTok, you see like Duolingo was like a big one last year who would just like post the silliest posts and comment on random people's videos, and people absolutely loved it. And that curated like chatter around their brand and created awareness for them. So those are the things that, like you said, are definitely working, which are really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, you come from that generation, Savannah, where you just expect that.
Mm-hmm.
It's Bobby and my generation are the ones that tend to think that it's a promotional channel and treat it as such. And we can't do that. It just doesn't work. And so unfortunately, there's so many big brands that still think of it as just a promotional channel that I think that it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking that that's the way it should work, but it just doesn't anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very true. With that, we kind of talked about, shoving your post down people's throat, but also, not posting enough. What do you recommend would be like a good way to go about curating your feed? Like any tips and tricks or things like that?
So by curating your feed, do you mean getting your news feed to actually give you content that you want? Or do you mean by getting your content in front of the right people?
I'd say both, honestly.
Okay. So LinkedIn's news feed is notoriously ineffective at providing us with the content that we really want. I understand. I don't use TikTok, but I understand that it's phenomenal at that, of interest filters and like really delivering to you what you want to see. The LinkedIn newsfeed algorithm isn't that sophisticated. So you can curate a little bit by, if you're seeing a lot of stuff in your feed that you don't want to see, there are 3 dots at the top of every post. And if you click those 3 dots, it's on the upper right-hand side of the post. You can say that you don't like that post and that you want to see less of that or less of that poster. So that can help to do that. Then the other thing that I like to do is actually create a saved search. So LinkedIn has some fairly sophisticated search functionality, and you can do a search for posts on a topic like ERP, for example, or Microsoft, or finance, or something like that. And then you can actually, once you get that feed looking the way you want with the types of posters that you want, you can search for specific people and things like that. Then I just save that as a saved search in Chrome. And then I can go back to that as my feed instead of using my home feed. And that has been really beneficial for me. If you're in sales, it's also super beneficial because you can actually do a saved search of all your prospects and then go drop comments on their content regularly. So that's how I would curate my feed. Now, in terms of getting your stuff in front of the right people, there's a couple of different strategies for that. One is making sure that you're connected to the people that you want to see your feed. Now, that's not a guarantee. I have over 6,000 connections, and I would probably bet that less than 1% consistently see my content in their feeds. And that's because while they have me as a connection, they also have 1,000, 2,000 other people as a connection. There's not room in the feed to put everybody's posts in there. So I try to get the people that I'm interested in engaging with me. I engage with them. I'll comment on their posts. I'll try to start dialogues with them. If I've had a dialogue with them in DM, it's more likely that my stuff will show up into their feed if they have reciprocated. I said dialogue, not monologue. So I can't just send them a DM and think that that's going to help. Don't spam them. You want to actually get them to respond to you and have a conversation. I call it with LinkedIn, both on the comments and on DMs. It's like a ping pong game where you don't have the goal of winning. You have the goal of keeping the ball in motion. So you're just slapping the ball back and forth and trying to give easy questions so the other person can slap it back, and doing that where you can get dialogue. The other thing to think about with LinkedIn, in every time you post, every time you comment, every time you send a DM, is to include a CTC instead of a CTA. So CTA means call to action, and it's usually go click my link, goes visit my blog, sign up for my newsletter, buy my thing. A CTC is a call to conversation. So I ask you a question, like you just did, Savannah. You batted the ball back to me. And so then I'll ask you a question, like, what are your favorite kind of posts that make it easy for you to engage with? So I just batted the ball back.
Okay.
I didn't ask that as a question enough. It sounded a little more like a statement, so that was my bad.
Yeah, no, I was just caught off guard. What's my favorite kind of post to engage with? That's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like you said, the CDCs, those are more fun because if not, it's like you see a post and if it's not asking anything, you're just going to keep scrolling by. So
Bingo.
Yeah.
You just nailed it. Like so many of the posts, you can't do anything but scroll on by.
Mhm.
And
Right.
that's a signal to the algorithm that post isn't interesting.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to see it, so it's not going to share it anymore.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, that's important. The creating, we talked about this earlier in the week, Candace and I, but the importance of creating conversation, not just getting a reaction, because the reactions can be quick and likely the folks aren't deeply getting into your content there.
Mhm.
They see you, they know you. It's like, oh, it's Bobby. I'm gonna like it. It doesn't matter what it is because it's Bobby.
Yeah.
Honk. And so that like is good, but really what you want to create is if you can get some conversation going, even if it's a little bit, it extends the reach of your post. It builds the relationship, stronger. You might pull other people in. Candace had a great post last week that was a great, fun party game called Two Truths and a Lie.
Oh yeah.
Where everybody knows this game. Again, there were probably 3 or 4 people that responded, but it was good, solid, meaningful conversation that resulted in a few new connections for me, a few new people that, who knows, where you meet along the way, but it broadened my reach immediately, and it was fun. So, that's a great post, something that's getting, again, it doesn't have to get, if it gets 1,000 comments, awesome. That's, you really hit it. But at the end of the day, if you're getting the right comments from the right folks that you're looking to attract, then that's a good post.
Yeah, you mentioned something really important there about 1,000 comments, Bobby. I have had posts that kind of went viral and got hundreds, not thousands of comments, but hundreds. Oh my gosh, that is such a time sink, because optimally you should respond to every comment on LinkedIn. And I posted our wedding picture on our 10-year anniversary and celebrated my husband and why I adore him so much. And that post went crazy. It did not attract the right audience. And everybody's like saying, congratulations, you two are such a cute couple, things like that. I have to respond to every one of them. It was a huge time sink.
Yeah.
So while I appreciate their comments and the reach that had, it doesn't deliver business outcomes for me. And so I'd rather have a post that gets 10 or 15 good comments with prospects rather than a post that goes viral.
You're exactly right. I mean, I feel guilty if I don't respond to every Facebook birthday response, and so I do. There are people, and I don't fault them. I don't look down on them. There are people who like put it like, "Hey, thank you everybody." One bulk post to say, "Thank you everybody that responded to me for my birthday," and I go and I just individually hit everybody with a quick note. Just like I know I'm going to spend half an hour to an hour one day doing this. It may not be right away, like right after the post, but it's at some point within a week I'm going to go do this because that's just my MO.
I took my birthday off of Facebook because I was so tired of doing that.
Yeah, I mean it's real. I mean I feel obligated. Somebody took the time to think, and sometimes it's just a click for them, and you can tell when a person has put the effort into a birthday response or a response on LinkedIn, or if they've just clicked the quick button.
Automated.
Yeah, the automated quick button or whatever. And that's all of it's cool. They thought of you, and that's awesome, and I want to respond to it.
Yeah.
You mentioned slapping. You've used the term a lot on LinkedIn and in your daily world, something called pitch slapping. So just wanted to get a brief description on what that means so people understand what that, how that evolved from, I'm sure it evolved in the olden days when you were getting, just bulk mail in the mail, and then to like phone calls and emails and now LinkedIn. What is pitch slapping?
I think, and just for everybody who's listening, we're saying that with a P as in Paul.
Yes. Thank you. Bully. Yeah. It is a play on words. Yes.
Yeah. And I always get like when I'm speaking publicly and I introduce that word, I get all these, it's so much fun to watch people's reactions with that. So a pitch slap is when you reach out to someone on LinkedIn with an unsolicited pitch. And It's kind of a natural thing to do. We're taught to write sales cadences on email. We're taught to cold call and have the perfect pitch that we can just slap people with the moment they pick up the phone, for those who are unfortunate enough to actually answer the phone when we call. Or, we send them, we subscribe them to our 10 or 20 email sales cadence and never let them go. And then, send them a final message saying, I'd appreciate a response, Bobby. That just never ceases to piss me off.
Right.
But so people have taken that methodology and applied it to LinkedIn, and it's not welcome on LinkedIn. In fact, where people will just sort of delete and move on with their day on email, they will publicly complain on LinkedIn about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like LinkedIn is like that last bastion of a place where I can have a business conversation with somebody without getting pitched constantly. So the idea of a pitch slap is if I reach out to Savannah with a connection request saying, hi, Savannah, I'm Candace. I do LinkedIn training. Would you like to talk about improving your LinkedIn presence? What it's doing is I look at the market. If anybody's target market, target addressable market, about 3% of that total target addressable market is in market for your offering at any given time. Assuming that you've identified your target addressable market well, the other 97% will probably be in market at some point in the future, but they're not in market right now. A pitch slap sends the same message to Savannah and Bobby and everybody else listening to this podcast with the same message, hoping to lift up and identify the 3%. But in the process, we're alienating the 97%. And I think that especially in any kind of Microsoft services where we're trying to sell something where it's kind of got a long buying cycle, like we don't make a shift from an ERP platform or a CRM platform or a cloud platform overnight. It's a long thought process. We're locked into something for a while usually.
Yeah.
So the last thing you want to do is irritate all of those people that aren't ready right now, but probably will be. Better to become the trusted advisor for those people so that when they are in the 3%, you're their natural choice. If you are pitch slapping everyone, you're really reducing the likelihood that you're going to win their trust over the long term. So by creating dialogue, engaging with people, sharing valuable thought leadership, but in a way that allows people to engage, not just shoving it down their throats, makes a huge, massive difference in terms of building trust.
Yeah. You touched on a great point. We talked a little bit about it previously. It's quality over quantity. I mean, it really is. It's like, you can go quantity and that might work for you, but it's a lot of work and you're not getting the deeper results. And if you go quality, and we do a lot of this, just exactly what you said. I've heard our business development folks say this in meetings, like, the initial meeting, like, hey, but we'll talk about what they want to talk about, and at the end, the person will literally say, I'm the kind of person that if you don't want to hear from me, you're not going to hear from me. I'm not going to call you up every week and ask you how things are going, or are you ready to buy, or I trust you know what that is, and we're going to be here for you if you need anything. You'll be on our list now for educational opportunities and things that we do just to keep you informed of what's going on in the community. But we're not going to shove offers down your throat or things of that nature. Like you said, it's like, oh, if you don't buy now, or we're going to come back and keep asking these questions. Let it sit and let them, like you said, let them come to you at their rate and be there for them. And when they know you're trusted, it's worked out so many times, for us where people. I don't know if I shared this last time we spoke, but working with a company now that I started communications with 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've attended webinars. They've joined us for our March Madness. They've we had and then all of a sudden out of the blue they're like, hey, we need you. We know you can do this, and we need people. And since then, it's been fire. It's been like I can't keep up with the request because they were so hungry now that they were ready. And so again, we could have pushed it 3 years ago and maybe not had this opportunity. So,
and I'll bet you they single sourced you too. That you weren't in a competitive environment at that point. They already trusted you. They didn't need to look at alternatives.
That's right. I
So
fully believe
there's
that. Yep.
tons of evidence for that, Bobby, that when Rain Group, Forrester, and the Gartner have all done buyer research, major buyer research studies on buyers of technology. And they found that 74% of those big 6-figure and higher purchases went to the vendor that originally helped them form the buying vision, not to a corporate bake-off or, a technical bake-off. So when we're only searching for the 3%, we're hunting just for the bake-off people. And that means that we are automatically reducing our likelihood of close, where if we're the natural choice because we've nurtured that relationship, our close ratio goes way up.
Mm-hmm. You bet. So true.
Yeah, it's a big difference maker, but you have to nurture that relationship. And so what you were talking about is you're doing events, you have emails, you're sharing useful information with them. You have to stay in nurture. It's like you can't be the guy that's coming by offering to fix my roof 2 years after I got a new roof and then saying, well, call me when you do need a new roof. I'm not going to remember who you are. You just pitched me at my door. I'm just annoyed by the fact that you interrupted my day. So you have to have a way to nurture that relationship.
I mean, one of the favorite things of my job, and again, this is just a personal thing for me, I do love to learn about the folks I'm interacting with so that I can do this on a more personal level and not feel like I'm just sending you some generic templatized email that I've created and now I'm sending it to everybody. I try to find that personal touch as I get to know you and remember details, and it's not a sales ploy. It's just who I am. I love doing this, and I love meeting people and learning about people. And so that's the fun aspect of what I do, is like being able to layer in that piece of it. So if I am reaching out, it's not going to be something that everybody, like you said before, that everybody else is getting.
Yeah.
That is going directly, for the most part. Sometimes, depending on timing or whatever it might, and what I'm reaching out on. But ultimately, I always try to find something that's unique and in those interactions.
Do we have time to dig into that just for a second?
Yeah.
So what you're saying there is like a huge thing, and it's getting lost in modern sales. So I have this theory. This is a little controversial. I think that the SaaS bros killed sales. And let me explain what I mean by that. So you have all these different SaaS products out on the market for sales technology, like Build Pipeline, like Outreach and Gong and Lavender. And these are really cool products and they are very impressive. And I think that the guys that have written these and have built these companies have done an amazing job. But what they have done is created a model where you hire somebody right out of college, you throw them on the phones as a BDR, and they're pounding through the numbers to get to the 3%. Well, those companies are also pretty good at creating good content to nurture leads and building trust and sharing thought leadership, and they're out on social and things like that. So there's more going on than just that BDR pounding the phones. But also, the BDR pounding the phones is using the technology that they are selling. And so they can understand what is going on with the technology and why the customer, they're intrinsically able to explain it. You take that same person right out of college and ask them to sell ERP. And they don't know what AP means, but they need to be able to go have an intelligent conversation with a CFO. We're asking them to do something that is way beyond a reasonable person's expectations of a person just coming out of college. But because the SaaS bros have created this expectation that that's how it should work, and they make it work, so why won't it work for this ERP reseller? And so then we have, they pitch out all of their cadences. And I see sellers of different things go grab those cadences, not understanding the nuance behind the cadence, and try to apply it to their business. And so then all of our inboxes get packed with emails that start with quick question, as a subject line.
Right.
And they don't execute on what the SaaS bros have executed on, which is a much bigger picture than just this little sales cadence. And they think, well, this should work because it works for Gong. It's not going to work for an ERP vendor the way it works for Gong. And so that we've set these very mistaken expectations. Is that your experience?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've seen this, firsthand, when somebody's struggling through. I mean, I've been there. I mean, I think we all have at some point been in a spot where I've been asked something or put in a position where maybe I'm not as strong on it, but I need to kind of step up and put on some facade to feel like I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me uncomfortable. I mean, I don't like to be in a situation so I've gotten decent about, just offering up the truth and like, I really don't know, fixed cost accounting that well, but I know people that do. And I'll certainly hook you up with them, but asking me is not going to get you anywhere. But so I'm just becoming that comfortable in my own space to be able to do that. But there are plenty of people who are just it's like this first job out, and you're thrown in there, and you're told to kind of BS it your way through the conversation. You're a salesperson, you can do it. If they say AP, you can just you muddle your way through it. But people can read through that too. So I see it happening way too often, and it just takes a lot more. Everything we've talked about up to now, what our marketing department has done in the ERP space, knowing that buying cycle being 12 to 18 months typically, of anything under 12 months in an ERP, is pretty unusual. Usually you got committees, and like you said, this is a multi-million-dollar decision that you're dealing with, and it's not going to be taken lightly, and there's a lot that goes into it.
And it changes everything in the business that's buying it.
Yeah. And that trust, especially that first level of trust from a BDR, is important, and building that first kind of bridge over into that organization to get that conversation started.
So I think we've just set the wrong expectations in organizations, because I see a lot of companies that are, they've been in this space for a long time and they want to hire a junior BDR because they expect that that's going to be able to move the needle from a sales perspective. And I think that's the wrong expectation.
Yeah.
You need somebody who's pretty experienced to be able to start those conversations. Yep. I think it's unreasonable to expect somebody who just came out of college to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a complex system. ERP is just, it's not just one thing. It's 500 things that each of them have their own. It's like supply chain, finance, project. It's just so many different pieces and deeper pieces of each of these areas that if somebody totally green coming into that, it would be difficult to build that trust, I think. And you're setting that up, just setting that person up and that whole system up for failure.
And you're setting your brand up for damage.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts for sure when it comes to that you need to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Bobby, did you kind of want to move into, well, I guess resources from Candace?
Yeah, Candace, you mentioned that you might have some resources available for folks who are listening. We'll put links, to those in the page. But if you want to talk through them just a little bit, to preview kind of what you were thinking and what's going to be out there for folks once this podcast gets released.
Sure, we do have a couple of checklists. So. If you, one of the big things on LinkedIn that I see is that profiles are still looking like resumes. And it's important to not treat your profiles as a resume. If you are running a firm, if you are in a senior position, if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, especially, your profile needs to become a sales tool or a tool to attract your target audience. It still needs to talk about you, but it also needs to talk about how you serve your audience. So I've got a checklist on what to do with your profile, and then also a checklist of just how to build out your LinkedIn presence. So those are both free tools. You can go to propelgrowth.com/podcast and get a link to both of those.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll have that link. Like I said, it'll be in the release as well, so they can click on it as well. So that's awesome.
Cool.
Great tools. Those are, like you said, it starts with foundation. So
yeah,
I see so many. It's getting better. It really is getting better. I mean, maybe rewind a couple of years ago, and just it would pain me sometimes. The pictures that people were using on LinkedIn, or just the sparsity of their LinkedIn profile, and if anybody ever asked me, like, I would never go in unsolicited and try to upsplain how to do it, without knowing you. Like I said, it just seems like a slap too. But if somebody asked me, yeah, definitely, let me help you, at least with some pointers and get some, just just uplift your profile a little bit.
Yeah. One thing that I see a common mistake with salespeople too is that they focus on all of their numbers and that they've accomplished President's Club X number of years in a row, and
right.
that they've managed to book 25 meetings a month or something like that. Unless you're job hunting, I don't recommend putting stats like that in your profile, because it actually tends to damage trust with your prospect as opposed to build it.
Yeah.
So always look at that profile. As often when you get a prospect that is thinking about taking a meeting with you, the first place they're going to go look you up is LinkedIn.
You bet.
That tool isn't, if you're not using that tool well, treat it like a landing page almost,
Yeah. The number one spy tool in the country right now.
Yeah.
It really is. I just thought of one of the best salespeople I've ever worked with, and I was not in sales at the time, but he worked at an organization, and it brought to me a great analogy. He is apparel sales, and he was in a smaller town, but a big town in Montana, but still a small town called Bozeman.
Oh yeah.
And he told me a story once about he'd go around, and in town there's a lot of gift shops selling apparel, so he knew everybody in town, of course. And oftentimes he would go by and just stop in and say hey. And one day he found out this one group of folks had never had waffles. Like one person in the thing had never had a waffle.
Wow.
And so he's like, he kind of noted that, and he came back one day with a waffle maker and batter, and said, "Do you mind? I'll plug in. You told me you never had waffles. I just want to make you some waffles." So I just thought, you got to be the kind of person who's more interested in making waffles than a sale, and when you do that, you'll make the sale. I mean, these people, they were so loyal, and he did it earnestly. It wasn't like, oh, I'll get them, I'll hook them with this. It just, he thought, geez, how could somebody not have waffles? I'm definitely coming back to make you waffles, just because that's the kind of person he was.
That's a really cool story.
It just resonated with me. It's like, yeah, this is the perfect salesperson. He understood the value in the relationship and not the sale, and that the relationship would give you the sale at some point. And that was just to me, that was just a strong, very visual tool that I've kept with me.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to be a long-term thinker there. If you're planning to leave your job after 6 months, then that play's not going to work. But I don't know. I think you and I, the three of us, we have a longer-term view of our network and our relationships than a 6-month cycle.
You bet. Yeah. I think, Savannah, you got some rapid fire questions before we head out of here?
I do, yeah. We're running out of time here. But yeah, Candace, I have some rapid fire questions. It's kind of a new fun thing we're doing on the pod to kind of end out the episodes. So yeah, and Bobby, you can answer them too, and maybe I'll weigh in my 2 cents as well, even though I'm the one that came up with them. But
you've got your answer prepared.
I love it.
But yeah, I'll just start throwing them out there.
All right.
So the first one is, outside of work, what is your favorite social media platform to use?
I'm going to say Instagram, only because I do. If there's any time suck in my life, it's Instagram Reels. Like I said, I'll catch up on some gym tips or some cooking tips or something fun, crafty thing that I've saved. I've got folders and folders of saved things that I go back to.
Yes.
Yeah, probably Instagram for me too. I don't have the apps on my devices anymore. I finally deleted all the apps after 2020, except LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do enjoy kind of getting on Instagram once in a while. But yeah, I kind of am socialed out by the end of the day.
You bet. And I turn off all the notifications, by the way. I don't want to be notified. I'll just go ahead and do it at my time. So it's not bugging me it's like, hey, it's me again, Instagram. I got some stuff for you. So I just kind of, I bug and go in what I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have all of my notifications turned off too, because you don't need that bothering you. And I do hate to say my most spent social media is probably TikTok, but
I knew you were going to say that.
I know, and I hate that. Every day I'm like, I should just delete this. It's such a time waster. But same as you, Bobby, I do have like folders of saved things, like workouts or meals or wedding planning stuff, just ideas to like go along with that. So
Yeah.
it can be useful, but a lot of it probably isn't.
There's some
Ooh,
useful stuff in there for sure. Maybe you just got to limit yourself. You can put a limit on apps, by the way. If you go into
Yes.
the app, you can actually put a time limit, which is nice. If you
yeah,
want to hold yourself
yeah,
accountable, it's like, hey, I'm on TikTok 4 hours a day. I gotta limit this to 45 minutes, and then
Yeah.
don't let yourself go back and change
yeah.
that time limit.
I know.
I did forget to mention YouTube. We have that with the YouTube app on our TV. We end up watching a lot of YouTube videos instead of like regular television.
Yeah, there's good
So,
stuff out there. You can get a lot of good content on YouTube for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, you bet.
yeah.
I watched a ton of like the Oscar-nominated documentaries. Probably 4 or 5 of them were on YouTube, and so I was able to catch them there.
Yeah, yeah. I really don't think of it as a social network, but I guess officially it is.
It kind
Yeah,
of is. They've got some elements for sure where you can kind of get you hooked and rolling through videos quickly and stuff.
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, on to the next question, kind of in the same vein. But do you have a favorite social media influencer at all? It can be LinkedIn,
Mm.
wherever.
So many.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know that I could name a favorite. I love Adam Grant's stuff. He's coming to mind right now.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to say, just like from day to day things that I, because I steal away ideas and, things to think about later on in life. I really like Candace. I think,
Oh,
in my daily work life. Now, like I said, and there's one gym guy that I like, and I can't think of his name, but he always, and there's a gal too. There's two of them that always provide really good exercise routines to keep, so I use those to keep my exercise stuff fresh. So, um,
yeah. I forgot Justin Welsh. I'll add him to it too. I really like his stuff. Who's yours, Savannah?
I don't really know. I'm bad at keeping up with the names of people who pop up.
Me
Like,
too.
you guys both do a great job, obviously. Yeah, there's one girl who pops up with workout video. I think her name's Whitney Simmons. She's really cool. But yeah, it's hard because they pop up all the time, but you focus more so on the content rather than the name of
right.
the person.
Yeah, yeah.
So cool. Okay. On to the next. What is your go-to comfort movie?
Hmm. It's not a movie, but we keep going by. My husband and I keep going back to the same shows repeatedly when we want
Yeah.
something to chill. Madam Secretary
Mm.
and the Gilmore Girls. We're just like we keep cycling through.
Uh,
And the corner. What's the one with the Korean the Korean family.
Television or movie?
No, it's a television series in Canada.
Oh,
Hmm.
I don't think I know that one.
Have
Or
to
if I
see
do, I don't know
through
by
it.
name.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's hysterically funny. It's a comedy, 30-minute things. Shoot.
Well, while you're thinking of it,
Yeah.
I'll say mine. I'm the same way with the TV shows. New Girl, The Office, all those. I'm
Oh yeah.
rewatching like One Tree Hill for the thousandth time now. But then with movies, it's The Parent Trap for me.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's a
Yep,
good
The
one.
Parent Trap. You're talking about the Lindsay Lohan version, I assume.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And we talked about this before. Have you seen the Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan? Because
Yeah.
that's a good one too. I would say with my kids, it was one of our comfort movies. Still is. Like my youngest daughter will still watch it. She's 24 now, and she's like, "Hey, what do you feel like watching Freaky Friday?" I was like, "Yeah, I love that movie."
I
It's
Yeah.
fun.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
But mine overall, I have like you said, I have TV shows like this that kind of just fill the void of like white noise in my life.
Hmm.
Um, and one of them's The West Wing. I like Madam Secretary. I haven't watched that one as much, but The West Wing I've watched probably 4 or 5 times
I
through.
love The West Wing. That
Um,
was so good.
but there was one movie in particular that I watched, it's embarrassing, but probably over 1,000 times. And I used it as white noise because I knew it so well. It would just kind of provide this background,
Yeah. You don't
Uh,
actually have to pay attention.
yeah, I don't have to pay attention. I'm watching it in my head. I have to look at it. I gotta go. It's
Yeah.
National Treasure with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that was a great
Okay.
movie.
Yeah.
That was a fun movie.
And so I was working hard on programming AX, the first version I programmed in, and it was like late nights into the night, like 2 in the morning, and I've got this this worn out copy of National Treasure on my DVD, just kicking away.
I love it. Kim's Convenience is the
Okay.
show that I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's very funny. Simu Liu is in it.
Okay.
And that's when I first became aware of him before he
Yeah.
landed on the Avengers and
Yeah.
all
Okay.
the other
Cool.
stuff that he's done. But yeah, it's hysterical. It only, I think they got 5 or 6 seasons, but it's really funny.
Cool.
Huh.
I'll look that one up.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up. Well, cool. Thanks for going along with our silly questions here
I
at
think
the
you're
end.
great. That was fun, Savannah.
Yeah. And thanks for joining us. This was a great conversation. Yeah, you provided a lot of good insight. So yeah, it's been great.
Anybody watching this, if they don't come out with a better LinkedIn profile and presence, if you want it, it's out there for you. So yeah, thanks again, Candace.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and
it.
if you want some help with a LinkedIn presence, reach out to me and we'll see what we can do to help you out.
Yeah, cool. Well, alrighty. Thanks for joining us, and thanks everyone for listening in. Until next time.
So much.
Bye, guys.